Well, hello there, and welcome to a Deadly Analysis review of the recent horror film, It Comes at Night. Now, given the title of this film, I made the mistake of going into the movie thinking it was simply going to be about the woes of having an enlarged prostate. Because, frequent urination, it comes at night. There was a joke in there somewhere, I promise. Anyway, It Comes at Night is a psychological horror film that centers around a family that's locked away in their wooded home in a somewhat apocalyptic setting. There's apparently a virus that's decimated civilization, and so the protagonist of the film, as well as his wife and young son, are really just trying to survive in their boarded up home. Now, all is well until someone tries to break in. And when that happens, they capture the man trying to break in, and he tells them that he was just trying to find food and water for his family, his wife and child. So trust is eventually established. He goes and gets his family, brings them in, and these two families begin living together in the original family's boarded up home. The trust quickly unravels, however, and paranoia starts to set in, and tensions mount as one night the only door that leads in and out of the house is left open. And so now there's a potential for infection and sabotage, and so the film focuses on the breakdown of trust between the characters after this incident, ultimately leading to an unhappy event, let's say. So for the most part, that's the basic story. Now, this review is going to be a little different than some of the other 2017 horror movie reviews that I've done. I'm only trying to cover films this year that either look promising from my perspective or that are given a solid rating on Rotten Tomatoes. As you're probably aware, there are hundreds of horror movies released every year, and almost all of them are shit. Just utter shit. And so my intention with these reviews is to discuss the ones that are seemingly intelligent and well-crafted and scarring. So for this film, the trailer looked promising, the reviews are fantastic, and it's currently sitting at an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I gotta tell you, I hated this movie. And let me tell you why. Despite all of the amazing reviews and despite the fact that I tend to love psychological horror and tension-based fear, this movie just kind of felt like the Walmart version of it. It was cheap and lackluster, and the only real tension I felt were like in a few scenes where both of the families were eating together at the dinner table and nobody was talking. Those were like probably the most tense moments for me. But of course, anyone can create tension by removing dialogue and just having people eye each other. Like, to do tension well, you need to do it through dialogue. That's the craft. That's what makes good tension. Looking for the unsaid things through the things that are said. Drawing out that something is amiss through the dialogue and interaction of the characters. And this film just didn't do that well. There were a couple scenes where they tried, where you catch a particular character in a lie, but it was so banal and so obvious that it just kind of felt cheap. It didn't feel like I had to do any digging, like any intellectual work at all when watching this. And I kind of need that in a psychological horror film. Now, other types of horror subgenre, I don't. But if you're going to make the fabric from which you weave your narrative be something like tension and distrust, then make the patterns of those things complex. Let me earn the fear a little bit. Most of the dialogue that takes place in this movie is short and sporadic. There aren't any real long scenes of discussion or dialogue, which is odd because the setting sort of beckons it. It asks for it. I mean, think about it. If you're locked in a home with people that you don't know and distrust starts to creep in, you'd expect lengthy sequences of dialogue. But you don't really get that in this movie. The back and forths are somewhat short and intermittent, which frustrated me to no end. Go take a look at some of the recent horror films that have done this well. Movies like Get Out and Creep and The Witch and The Invitation. These are all films that build tension slowly and artfully. And this film, on the other hand, just sort of throws it at you sloppily. It's a very slow-paced film, which is fine if you get a payoff for it. But I just couldn't find the payoff. Now, the movie, to me, isn't all bad. Like, with all of this said, I actually did like one solid thing throughout the entire movie, and it's the pessimism of the film. And I can't really tell you why without blowing the movie for you, but let's just say that the movie offers a decent morality play that punishes you for doing the right thing. In other words, and I'm really dancing here to avoid spoilers, it takes your intuitions about doing the right thing and highlights that the worst possible outcome can ultimately come about precisely because you did the right thing. And as a baby-eating, fedora-wielding, embrace the abyss sort of nihilist, I kind of dug that. But I just gotta say, at the end of the day, this film didn't scare me. It didn't creep me out. It didn't leave me troubled or with anxiety. I just sort of left the theater thinking about what I had going on the rest of the day. And I don't like that. I want to be thinking about a movie after it ends. Something has got to linger for me to enjoy it when it comes to these types of films, and unfortunately that just didn't happen here. So despite all of the fantastic reviews for It Comes at Night, I just think there are recent films that have done this sort of thing much better. But that's just my opinion. What did you think of the movie? Feel free to drop a comment below, like the video, and then check out some of the other stuff on our channel. We basically analyze the foundational fears and philosophical underpinnings of good horror films. And if this is your first time checking out our channel, I promise you I'm not this snobby in the rest of our videos. Just like maybe 80% of them. I don't know. So thanks for taking the time to watch this review. I hope you enjoyed it.